Today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome. Let me tell you why I'm qualified to talk about imposter syndrome, because I'm an imposter. My entire life, I've felt somewhat of an imposter, and I think I'm finally hitting the fact that I have imposter syndrome. Starting from college, I went to college probably far beyond what I should have gotten in. I didn't do great extracurriculars. My GPA was okay, but it wasn't stellar. I wasn't the best studier. And then somehow, by the grace of God, I got into a top 10 liberal arts college filled with smart kids from top boarding schools and private schools, and sometimes known as the Harvard of the South. Went there, felt like an imposter. Everyone was an Eagle Scout. Everyone had extracurriculars. President of their country, president of their school, had great grades, but I somehow made it. And then I became a relatively significant person there by doing different extracurriculars there and living up to that imposter level. Then I went into investment banking, purely by the chance of God that the school I went to, Washington University, happened to be a target school for some of these firms. I knew nothing about banking, knew nothing about finance, had no connection to banking, no connections to finance, got into banking. Inside banking, I felt like an imposter because all these kids that were bred to be bankers from the start were surrounding me. They went to these specific colleges on purpose. Some of them had parents who were bankers. I was an imposter. Then I went into the startup scene and worked for a company called Cloud Kitchens. I felt like an imposter because I knew nothing about startups and I just wanted to get out of finance. It was work from home. I didn't know any of these people and I had to pretend like I knew what I was doing. I was an imposter. Then I jumped into NFTs and started hyperspace with my friends. I was an imposter. I was not a Web3 native. I knew nothing about NFTs. In fact, I thought NFTs were a scam, but I had to be this voice of reason, voice of truth, and continue to be with my face plastered on the Twitter account and continue to go. As I've built this brand and this position within Solana, within NFTs, within Web3, people have reached out to me by the masses. People DM me, very big names, company CEOs, founders, adults, boomers, people with a lot of money, people that know crypto probably better than me, ask me for advice. And I am an imposter. I never lie. I never exaggerate. I sometimes even admit that I don't know things, which I think adds to my value, but I'm continuously an imposter because the discrepancy between what people think I am versus what I actually am are getting wider and wider and wider. So I worry because as a pretty honest person and a somewhat ethical person, I worry that I'm lying by being an imposter, that I'm not being true to myself, but also not being true to others. The solution that I've come to myself is either one of two ways. One, admit that you're an imposter, but continue to be that imposter so that you are successful and you're seen well. And then at the end of the road, you will end as an imposter, but no one will know that you're an imposter. So theoretically, you are kind of not an imposter. Or two, try to lessen this gap between who you actually are and the imposter itself so that you feel less and less impostery. I very openly, and I hope this doesn't degrade my value as a successful imposter, have decided the first path of just continuing to keep expectations high and somehow reaching them by being who I am, having people inflate what I think I actually am, and then benefit from that all around, solely because the more and more I meet successful people in this world, I'm recognizing that the people that do best are the people that are somewhat overestimated, overvalued, but know that internally, estimate it internally, understand that, and seek help. But they never out front admit that they're an imposter, because that's an unattractive thing to do, which I've been doing for the past 4 minutes. I am an imposter, and you are probably an imposter. We're all imposters, especially in this day and age of in real life and digital presence. The discrepancy between the two is too damn high. I've pretended to be an investment banking analyst on this channel, a relationship advice person, a now life advice person. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm 25. I'm a dude in New York, Korean immigrant family. Don't know what I'm doing, but there is a persona that you are perceiving me to be, the imposter that you're believing me to be, that I'm ever more so somewhat working towards, not maybe directly, but you are seeing as the voice of truth, voice of reason. As I meet more people, people are also imposters because I see their human side, and there's a expectation, especially if you see someone online before you meet them. You hear about them, you learn about them, you learn about all their great feats, and then you meet them and you realize they're just another human being. There's a lot that they don't know. There's a lot that they're depending on you to know when you are sometimes half their age, half their net worth, 1/100th of their net worth, and they still are asking for you because they are also buying into your imposterness. I think being an imposter has a bad connotation because it means fake and you are pretending to be someone else. But imposter syndrome in this day and age is more about how people perceive you, what people think you are. And that persona has to originate from somewhere. No one thinks you're a successful person if you're not successful at all. Of course, let's take out the outlier con artists who are literally intentionally becoming the imposter. But if you're an imposter as a byproduct of being successful or trying hard, and you've become that imposter to others and the people that say you are a certain way, that image is different from the image that you feel like you are, you kind of have it great. I think that's how you solve imposter syndrome. You admit to yourself, there's a lot of work to be done. I am not as great as the overvalued, overestimated person you think I am. But if that persona, if that perception is bringing you value and you feel good from getting advice or consulting or direct tangible benefits from me, and specifically the me that you think I am, and you actually are getting that benefit, whether it's peace of mind, placebo effect, and I am recognizing that and not buying into it on a schizophrenic level method, then I think everything's fine. As long as you're making constant efforts to keep yourself in check, remind yourself in a non-toxic way that you might not be as great as the way that people think you are, and then somewhat juicing yourself up and giving you those sweet treats once in a while and telling yourself you are decently great. One of the biggest pieces of advice I've ever received, which is tangential to this topic, is that it doesn't actually genuinely, ultimately matter what people really think of you, as long as they treat you a certain way their entire lifetime. Theoretically, let's say your best friend actually hates you, but for whatever reason, for 80 years, is by your side, is in a team no matter what, always hangs out with you, loves you, gives you gifts. You die knowing that fact, that simple fact that this person treated you well, and that were your best friend. What they actually think of you deep down that you might sometimes question and wonder, does Billy Joe not actually like me, doesn't really matter if the entire truth that you knew and you saw and you had proof for the entire lifetime was that they were your best friend. This is a scary statement, but I think imposter syndrome works the exact same way. If people think of you as a certain expert in a field or reveres you in a certain way, but you don't think you're that great, but that great is determined by whatever those people are determining great to be. And if they all have decided that you are that great, then by definition, you are that great. If there was an objective scale for greatness and they judge you as a 10 and you think you're a 4, there is a 6 discrepancy, but in the eye of the beholder, in the eye of the world, you are the 10. So you might as well use that to your advantage and use that as your platform and build towards it. Of course, this shortening is the greatest feeling because you feel relevant and you feel rewarded for the work that you've put on. I think that happens a lot sometimes in probably athletics where it's measurable. I'm sure LeBron James doesn't really have imposter syndrome, but in the general realm of things, we're all pretending to know what's going on, especially in 2023 where everything's up for grabs. There's nothing for sure. It's all uncertain and everyone feels like an imposter because it is the persona that we're building towards and nothing is set in stone. And I think it's important to embrace that. And I'm using this as a self-therapy session for feeling very impostery myself and often feeling like in conversation, am I really qualified to talk about this or even go out of my way to teach this person something? But if that byproduct of that person, they're not factually misled, but they are inspired or they feel like they've gotten sound advice from that heat of the moment, then there's value. There's social tangible value created from that conversation. And the imposter that you feel like you are is who you are in that moment to that person. I hope I didn't feel like or talk like a scam artist. I feel like an imposter even making this video talking about imposter syndrome. I hope that you learn how to deal with imposter syndrome if you're feeling it. My advice to you, very straightforward, is embrace it. If people think of you highly, it's a great thing. Don't think of yourself any lower. Embrace it, motivate yourself, and keep going to hit those standards and lengthen and widen that gap even more so that you can continue to become the bigger imposter you can be. Thank you guys for watching. I hope I wasn't too much of an imposter. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Let's go.